In the ledger of human governance, there comes a time when the architecture of the state trembles, not from the weight of age or natural entropy, but from calculated undoing. Attend now, O seekers of clarity, to the unfolding pattern, not as isolated edicts or transient feuds, but as a coherent rite of unravelling. What is written here is no mere chronicle of political variance, but an inscription of systemic desecration akin to the ancient crime of the Bustout. A profane alchemy in which the sacred vessel of the state is hollowed, its essence siphoned, and its form discarded. Behold the signs: leadership enthralled, oversight dismantled, the commons drained, and the people's trust defiled. The machinations do not arise in chaos, but in grim symmetry, each movement aligned with a method known to those who extract value from entities destined for collapse. Thus let us inscribe the model upon the scroll of discernment. That which afflicts a merchant house may afflict a nation. That which consumes the lesser vessel may devour the greater. In this light, the nation-state reveals itself not as a victim of misfortune, but as a host subjected to parasitic design. Stage 1. Control the leadership and weaken oversight. In any bust-out scenario, control is the prerequisite. The dismissal of 17 inspectors general, combined with the rapid removal of senior military judge advocate generals, directly mirrors the early step of seizing managerial control to eliminate internal resistance. Inspectors general function precisely as internal alarm systems. They are independent watchdogs who guard against fraud, waste and corruption. Their removal effectively disables governmental self-defense mechanisms, making agencies vulnerable to manipulation from above. This strategic action, rapid, broad and unprecedented, signals a deliberate intent to diminish internal oversight. Red flags here include sudden dismissals without due cause, replacements drawn from overtly political rather than career officials, and rhetoric demonizing traditional oversight bodies. Investigators should be particularly alert to policy decisions, appointments, and firings concentrated around roles responsible for accountability, transparency, and internal ethics. Stage 2. Starve the state and redirect public resources. Reducing taxes significantly while simultaneously imposing substantial funding cuts across critical federal agencies directly aligns with the bust-out methodology of leveraging an entity to its breaking point. Agencies vital to public welfare and stability, such as the CDC, NIH, Social Security Administration and NSF, are losing crucial financial resources and personnel. Concurrently, funding is redirected toward politically loyal or private entities, such as the Department of Government Efficiency under Elon Musk, and favoured private contractors positioned to replace public functions. The intent here is not merely fiscal conservatism. It creates conditions in which public systems inevitably fail, justifying further privatization. Red flags include aggressive tax reductions combined with sudden severe budget cuts to vital public services, strategic budget increases for privatized functions, and the appearance of favored private actors rapidly filling the voids left by these cuts. Investigators and media should probe particularly for undisclosed financial interests, hidden contracts and privatization deals made hastily and with limited oversight or competition. Stage 3. Loot public assets and prepare for privatization. The liquidation or privatization of publicly owned assets, over 400 federal properties identified for sale, including critical offices used by IRS and Department of Labor, illustrates the hallmark bust-out stage of asset stripping. Simultaneously, entire federal programs like USAID, IMLS and NSF grants are abruptly defunded, their resources becoming opportunities for privately operated alternatives or simply vanishing into private profit centers. This is extraction, clear and simple. Public assets developed and maintained at taxpayer expense are transferred into private hands, often at undervalued rates. Red flags include rapid, non-competitive asset sales involvement of politically connected buyers, loss of public transparency on property disposition, and sudden shifts from publicly managed to private or semi-private operation. Investigative scrutiny should concentrate on tracing ownership, verifying fair market valuation, and uncovering hidden beneficiaries and conflicts of interest. Stage 4. Undermine core functions and accelerate systemic instability. The widespread, simultaneous weakening of crucial government functions, Social Security Administration job cuts, risking benefit disruptions, IRS staffing reductions, hampering tax enforcement, CDC data cuts, undermining public health surveillance, reflects the bust-out tactic of intentionally weakening core operational capacity. Intelligence agencies, including the FBI and CIA, traditionally insulated from rapid structural shifts, now also face budget constraints, indicating that systemic destabilization may extend even to national security apparatus. The deliberate speed and scale of these cuts suggest intent beyond mere efficiency. These actions appear aimed at eroding trust in the state's capacity to deliver critical public goods and services. Red flags to watch include widespread operational failures, chronic understaffing leading to visible public service breakdowns, intentional degradation of publicly accessible information, and a sudden reliance on private, often politically connected firms to fill service gaps. Stage 5. Escalate crisis conditions and exploit or conceal collapse. Recent dismissals of senior military leadership and high-ranking JAG officers represent a disturbing elevation toward crisis-oriented governance. In classic bust-out schemes, deliberate chaos often masks final extraction and prevents clear accountability. A weakened, politicized military leadership is inherently vulnerable to misdirection and misuse, particularly in times of real or manufactured emergencies. Intent here manifests through increased political control over the security apparatus, potentially paving the way for declarations of extraordinary powers or national emergencies. Red flags include aggressive rhetoric around perceived internal threats, politicized military appointments, broad invocation of emergency powers without transparent justification, and the targeting of media or institutions that might independently report crises objectively. As Thoth bore witness to the judgments of kings and scribes, so must you bear witness to the fate being authored in your age. The events herein, systematic purging of guardians, evisceration of public trust, privatization cloaked as reform, and the degradation of both civilian and martial stewardship, compose not mere coincidence, but an orchestration of collapse. The nation-state bust-out is not a metaphor. It is a methodology, now applied to the body politic with precision and purpose. O stewards of the present, take up vigilance as your divine charge. The red flags have been raised not to inspire fear, but to summon clarity. Look not only at what is destroyed, but who profits from the ruin. Demand from your institutions the transparency they withhold, and from your fellow citizens the courage they still possess. For even as the ink dries upon this scroll, the hourglass turns. Let not silence be your consent, nor ignorance your offering. Where the balance is threatened, the scribe must speak. And where the temple is under siege, the faithful must stand, not in panic, but in principled defense of the sacred trust.